Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, and Cleveland comes away with a 13-10 victory, and the game winner coming off of yet another quarterback in back-to-back weeks, another quarterback-led final drive to get us into field goal range to win it and walk off. Derek, you heard me talking about the resilience of this football team and that they weren't going to collapse, they weren't going to die. What was your thoughts and feelings kind of going into this one? And what are your thoughts and feelings after seeing that gutsy performance from this football team?
Um, Believe it or not, and I kind of felt bad about this because of the way I felt last time. Because going into that Steelers game last time, I was very confident, and we both were. Um, Outside of the fact that they're the Steelers and it's always a tough game. But heading into this game, I was very confident because this team is in a much different spot, A. And B, there's multiple ways you can look at this game as far as something to prove. Something to prove within the division, right? Because the Steelers are annoying as hell. They keep winning, even though they suck. And, for the Browns, if you want a chance to win the division, you had to beat the Ravens. You already beat the Bengals, and you couldn't let the Steelers sweep you. And they didn't. And I felt really good heading into this game because of that. I felt like it was a must win. Revenge was on the mind, especially given Nick Chubb. I know Minka didn't play, but still the Steelers. And I felt really good about it. Coming out of it, um, I feel even better as far as the kind of question marks that we have because the defense played out of its mind yet again. Um, our formula of winning kind of was shown in this game. Um, and I'll talk about it a little bit more as far as when we like actually dive into the game offensively and defensively, but I felt there were, plenty of opportunities on the table. I felt like this game didn't even need to be this close. And the fact that it was this close and you gave the ball back to Pittsburgh multiple times and you said, here's your chance to go win it. And they couldn't do it because you played defense that well. That's what gives me so much hope, and that's what gives me such a good feeling about this team. It's not necessarily because of the performance, but it's how you answered, especially defensively. And I rewatched the game last night, if not two. I want to say it was last night. Um, Without any emotion, knowing that we won, just looking for specific things. And man, I tell you what, when you look at it after the fact and you take the emotion out, you see a whole different game. And there's a lot, and I can't wait to dive into it. But there is a lot with this game, especially offensively, that I want to talk about. But yeah, I feel really good. But Tristan, just in general, same thing. Going in, coming out. What's the difference? Where are you at with this?
Yeah, similar to you, I kind of went into this one feeling confident. I knew the defense would neutralize their offense. It was a matter of would the offense do enough, and um, they did. I mean, luckily they didn't have to put up 20 points, But listen, in this game, you know, if we would have gotten the same offensive performance against Pittsburgh the last time out, we would have beat them then. Like, but it's because of the fact that in that first performance, we were so irresponsible with the football and turning it over at will, making really just dumb mistakes and playing right into their hands. And Kevin came out with a game plan that made it so that way it was less pressure on your quarterback, a lot simpler, let him get comfortable. Uh, and not only that, but it took away the Steelers' number one strength, which is their edge rushers. I mean, we were getting the ball off in a little over 2 seconds, and I remember those Big Ben offenses for with Pittsburgh at the later years in his career, and Miles would always struggle to produce against them. And the reason why is because Ben would get to the bottom of his second drop and bottom of his second step, and he would just get the ball off, and it was annoying because it's like what the hell are you supposed to do from a pass rush perspective? So um, yeah, I think that with this game in particular, just the resilience you saw from your team, the fight you saw from this team. Yet again, they were in a situation where they could have given up. They really could have. It got tough for them, not only with the injuries that you had before the game, but you go up 10-0, offense stagnates, Pittsburgh gets back into it 10-10. I mean, these guys refuse to die. They refuse to die, and they show up like their lives depend on it. They really do, and they fight like hell, and they find ways to win games. And for the longest time, it has been so hard for us to find that here in Cleveland. The amount of one score games last season that we lost was unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable. And now when you look at it this year, we've got a kicker that you feel confident with any single kick anywhere on the field that's in his range. You've got uh, offensively, you've got guys that fight like hell and fight hard and execute. And I think the biggest difference is you got Kevin Stefanski really just finding his groove. He's getting into a rhythm. He's doing a great job right now of playing to his strengths while also taking away a team's biggest strength as well. Um, I think that right now what Kevin Stefanski is doing, there's some people shouting for him to be a head coach of the year candidate, and he absolutely deserves to be in that conversation. Will he win it? Probably not. He would have to. If we finish with the number one seed in the AFC, you have to. But is that likely? That's tough. But um, Derek, you had talked about what you had a lot of stuff on the agenda that you wanted to get to with this Browns offense. Um, Kind of take me through, start us with either, the pass game or run game, kind of like what was the biggest thing that stood out to you, or the first topic that you really want to hammer home when it comes to this Browns offense?
So the obvious thing is, you had your rookie quarterback starting for the second time ever. How was that gonna look? And I'll be honest, watching the game live, like there was a lot of really good things, but watching the game again after the fact, there is a lot that was left on the table here for Kevin Stefanski, A, and I think DTR, B. DTR, especially. So it's a tale of two halves, right? And the numbers show that as well. So in the first half, I thought the play calling was really good. I thought it was a great balance of run pass. I loved the direct QB snap when DTR just took it, follow your guards, let them pull, and you got the first down. I mean, I absolutely loved a lot of the things that Kevin was calling up in the first half. I loved a lot of the things that we were doing offensively. Yes, there was a lot of drops. Yes, there was a lot of just kind of missed opportunities. Um, but a lot of what we did in the first half, I really, really liked. And, looking at the run game, I thought that the combination of Jerome Ford doing what he does, I thought he did a solid job today. I think he's continuing to get more consistent. And that's a really good thing because earlier on when Nick Chubb went down, it was a lot of you don't really know what you're going to get out of Jerome Ford week to week. And now we're kind of starting to understand what we're getting. We're going to get around like 50 some yards, around that range, right? Could be a little bit under, could be a little bit over. But they're going to be good yards, right? And that's the biggest thing. And Kareem Hunt, I said I love Kareem Hunt so much. I would love to meet that man and just shake his hand because he is one of my favorite Browns players. Not just now, but genuinely all time. Like I love the guts that he shows. I love the way he plays football. I know he's older. I know he doesn't have what he used to by any means, but man, when we need him to show up, he does. So, um, first half offensively, I thought it was really good. Second half was completely different, and especially looking at it after the fact, right? It seemed more so watching the game live in the second half that, oh, things just weren't there, whatever. I think in the second half, and I understand why, and this has been a big topic of conversation. Um, in the second half, it was a lot of nothing, and it was very hard to watch. And as a Browns fan watching the game live, it was like, okay, when is Pittsburgh going to take over? Because we couldn't do anything offensively. Um, and one of the points I want to hit here before I talk about after the fact and watching it not live, one of the points I want to make here is people have been discussing and talking about Kevin calling a conservative second half and why he needed to do that. And there's a lot of points made, and I completely understand it. But I want to say this because I don't feel that this has been mentioned and it's been talked about fairly. Yes, Kevin Stefanski called a conservative second half not to lose. I mean, that's just what it was. He called the game in the second half not to lose. And I understand why. I get it. It makes sense, believe me. Um, but the problem that I have with it is not the fact that he called the game conservatively or he didn't want to risk turning the ball over. Um, my problem is he called a game that you couldn't even sustain drives in the second half. And that's my number one criticism with this is it's not about protecting the football. It's not about, not screwing yourself and not hurting yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is I felt Kevin went so conservative that you handed the ball to Pittsburgh multiple times. And the defense, yes, it's our number one strength of this team, of course. They had to bail you out time after time after time. And, you know, just kind of looking into after the fact now, talking, a lot of things that I saw, I think Kevin just didn't take, I think he was scared to take advantage of some of the things um, that you saw from a defensive look from the Steelers because the Steelers in the second half, Mike Tomlin, say what you want about him. I know a lot of Browns fans hate him. Tristan, obviously, you respect him and you like him a lot. That's well documented. And I do too. I can't stand him, but I respect him. Um, the Steelers defense started sitting on those under routes and all the stuff that was the easy gimme stuff that Kevin was giving DTR, the Steelers took it away. They essentially said, "Hey, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to take some shots. You're going to have to open the pass game up a little bit." And give it to Stefanski. The Browns were able to run the ball. I thought a little bit better in the second half. Um, but and this is kind of more of a long-term thing here as far as what I'm about to say, but you have got to trust DTR a little bit more. I think Kevin, and I'm not blaming him. I'm not mad at him. So don't take this as a hate Stefanski thing, everybody. Um, but if the Browns are going to win this season, Kevin Stefanski has to trust DTR. And the reason why I say that is the last drive, the game winning drive. You saw a quarterback who did not look like a rookie. He looked like the guy out of UCLA, the guy who set records, who was a college veteran quarterback who found ways to make plays. And that's what he did. That was a big boy throw to Amari Cooper over the middle of the field. Big boy throw to Njoku, right? And yes, DTR turned the ball over once, but what you saw on that last drive was when you said, "Hey, kid, this game's on you, right? Go get it done. We need you to get it done." He stepped up. And not that it's a problem that Kevin called a conservative second half, but I wish if it, obviously this is nitpicking. So a lot of people are going to take this as me hating. I'm really not. I get it. But the one critique I will have from this game is I think Kevin, they gave it to you. They were telling you, trust your quarterback. We dare you to open it up, and you still didn't. Me personally, I would have liked to have opened it up a little bit more. I understand why we didn't. Obviously, you got the win, and it is what it is, thank God. But had we lost that game trying not to lose and calling plays not to lose, I would have been pissed. I'd have been pissed because looking back at it and kind of reassessing the game as a whole, it was there. But ultimately, it does not matter. We won. DTR uh, pulled out his peanuts, put them on the table, and said, "This is who I am, and this is the guy. This is DTR. The DTR you saw against the Ravens is not the real Dorian Thompson Robinson, right? The guy who led that game-winning drive at the end of this game is the guy he can be." And I'm personally, and we'll talk about it against Denver here at the end of the podcast, but Tristan, I am very, very excited for the development of this kid because what he's done and what he's shown in this game with his legs, A, and then his arm, B. I believe this is like the bottom of the barrel of what you're going to see from DTR, or what I hoped you see from DTR the rest of this year. So, um, before I turn it over to you, I'm trying to think, is there anything else big I wanted to talk about? Um, two things real fast before I go to you. Elijah Moore stepped up, and I thought he had a really good game. He had 6 receptions for 60 yards. That's a big boy game out of Elijah Moore. We've been needing that. And that's going to have to continue if we're going to be successful this year. We need other receiving threats to step up. And B, David Njoku just had an off game, right? And it made up for it when it mattered, right there at the end of the game. But Njoku all day had a bad case of the drops. And, as great of a year as Njoku has had, got to criticize where it needs criticized. And I think it's fair to point out he did have a little bit of a rough game, but ultimately, like I said, did not matter. So, you know, on to you, sir. How did you feel about the offense?
Yeah, yeah. Very similar thought process to you, where um, the only difference I would say is when we're talking about the second half. It wasn't necessarily that Kevin called plays too conservative. For me, it was more so Pittsburgh made their adjustment and we didn't make one back. We kind of stuck with the same plays and the same stuff that DTR was having a lot of success with in the first half. And we didn't kind of move off of it. And listen, here's what I will say. If this was DTR's 5th start and, he's been taking the 1 reps throughout practice for a month now, you know, it's inexcusable, right? But with that being said, again, it's a rookie who, listen, this was a game where you could not let their defense win it for him, and, you know, that's where personally I look at this and I say, I can't put too much stock into his play calling because he had to call his plays in a certain way so that way that Pittsburgh defense wouldn't be as impactful as we know it can be. And our rookie quarterback needed to have a good performance. He needed to have a clean performance, be able to go through there and say, you know what, I came out unscratched, and you know what, I got us a dub. And that for me, that was the biggest thing. Um, and now can you build off of this? Because listen, Pittsburgh, for the rest of the schedule, that was the hardest defense you were going to play, hands down. So DTR, you didn't look the best, but you didn't look awful. You know what? This gives you an opportunity to build off of that moving forward. With DTR's game in particular, I felt like in the first half, he came out, and when he was seeing something, he was decisive, man. And kind of like what I talked about with Deshaun, like in his best moments, where he was finding success was when he was seeing it and he wasn't thinking about it. He saw it and boom, it was out. And that's where I felt like DTR had a lot of really good success early on. For me, what I feel happened, I feel when the drops really started to come in, DTR started to get a little bit more hesitant and a little more gun shy. Um, at least this is how I saw it. Certainly the play calls, again, they were fairly similar, but I think there were opportunities for him to throw it downfield a bit more, but it would have been risky. So, um, I think ultimately with this one, you know, as far as like an offensive play caller perspective and a quarterback performance, you almost want to write it off and just say, you know what, you did enough to win, good enough, because it's Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh. You got to play a certain way against Pittsburgh if you're going to get a win. And that's what we did. We out-Steelered the Steelers. So, that's how we had to do it. And we did it. For me, I'm going to put a lot more stock into this next game against Denver because Denver, their statistics show that they're like the worst team in the league, but that Miami game really killed them. I think they're about middle of the pack, I would say. A very solid opponent to go up against to see where you're at with your quarterback. That's what I would say. But we'll get it more into that when we talk about Denver. But no, on the offensive side of things, you kind of highlighted Elijah Moore. I thought he looked pretty solid today, or not today, Sunday. See, you've got me doing that. Um, excuse me. Amari Cooper didn't get a ton of looks, but I felt like he was okay when he did get the looks he got. I will say that interception DTR had, Amari's got to bring that in. David had a rough game, like you said. I think that a lot of things offensively, just give it time. Give it time. The rough edges will smoothen out. And that for me is the biggest takeaway from this game was you showed how dominant your defense can be. This offense, if we can trust this offense can consistently get to 20 points, this team can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere. I promise you. Because it's not like we were getting 300-yard performances from our quarterback before. It wasn't like that. We don't need a world beater at quarterback. We just need a guy who's going to manage the game well, not going to turn over the football and put our defense in compromising situations, but also be able to get us 20 points. And can DTR do that? Absolutely, he can. Absolutely, he can. And that's the takeaway I come away with from the offense in this game. We had a lot of mistakes that a lot of them were self-inflicted with the drops. And yet our quarterback played a clean game, and he can build off of this. He can build off of this. Derek, before I get into the defensive side of the ball, defense and special teams. Let's what were your thoughts on that group in that game on Sunday? I mean, clearly an impressive performance, limiting only 10 points, but wow, it was impressive.
Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, Tristan, I'm going to keep this short since I talked longer about the offense. Couple things. I could not be any happier with this secondary. I mean, the way they covered in this game, oh my goodness. Every one of them had their moments of greatness as far as in coverage, right? Now, Greg Newsome, I would like to have a word with you on your angle of trying to tackle Jaylen Warren on that 70-yard touchdown run, because you, sir, took a horrible angle on that. I'll talk about that later, but just quickly in coverage. I mean, the one play just gives me absolute chills, literally gives me chills. I can't remember who it was to. I don't know if it was a receiver or if it was just out of the backfield to a running back, but at one point, Kenny Pickett threw the ball to somebody, and within seconds, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson were wrapping him up and driving him back.
It was a screenplay to
Okay.
Warren. It was. I want to say it was actually in their final drive before we got the ball back to go up.
Okay.
They threw a screen on like a third down, and like we had all
Yeah.
three of them were just
Mhm.
charging
Yeah.
downhill right at him. Poor guy.
No.
Oh,
No, poor guy.
poor
No, hit
Jalen
him
Warren.
harder. Hit him harder. He plays for the Steelers.
I knew you would say
But no, I
that.
that literally gave me chills. Like, just to see the way that we flew to the ball was incredible. I mean, if you like watching defensive football, man, was that fun to watch, especially what we did in the secondary. The pass rush, Obo Okoronkwo has been such a valuable pickup, and we have him for the next 2 years after this year. But man, that's a guy I want to keep around. And we talked about Zadarius and that whole situation. Obo is a dude. He is a dude, and he has come into his own as kind of that second/third rotational guy. Jim Schwartz, I don't know if you caught this, Tristan, had JOK lined up at the line of scrimmage, down in a 3-point stance. Um, Unreal. The balls on Jim Schwartz. That's absolutely insane. Just some of the things that we were doing in this game defensively, um, especially in coverage. The pass rush and the pass coverage, I thought in this game, A plus plus. You literally can't get much better than that. I mean, nobody really did anything in the pass game. And sure, we could talk about Kenny Pickett. Um, Actually, you know what? Before I get into Kenny Pickett, on the run side of things, I'll be honest. I at times I was a bit concerned with the run defense. I thought we were getting pushed around a little bit, and I did not like that. Um, but it's fine, right? It's not bad enough to where last year it was inexcusable and it absolutely killed you. But at the same time, I didn't think it was good enough where, if the Steelers just went to running the ball, they would have been completely shut down. I think Jalen Warren he's a dude. He is a Steelers running back. He just doesn't go down. Najee seems kind of slow, but he's still good. I mean, he's a good running back. So I was a bit concerned as far as the run game goes and the run defense, but you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but before I go to you, Tristan, Kenny Pickett sucks. Kenny Pickett is terrible, and I don't mean that as like to genuinely. I don't mean that as like a trash talking thing. I'm genuinely serious. Kenny Pickett is a career backup in the NFL. And I don't know at what point the Steelers will realize that, but Kenny Pickett cannot be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they want to do anything, right? They are horrid offensively. And yes, we'll talk about Matt Canada being fired, but just to kind of put a tease on that one, I don't think that's going to fix the problem. I think number 8 is a problem. Um, he's terrible. He's terrible, and I thought at best in the NFL Kenny Pickett would be okay because he's got the legs and he's got a solid arm. But man, if you can pressure him, he is horrible. And I hate to say this because again, I feel like this gets said so much in Browns media, constantly throwing shots at Baker, and I don't mean this as a shot at Baker. I really don't. But the Steelers are coming to the realization that the Browns were a couple years ago, where you want to have hope that your guy is the guy. He's just not. He's just not. And I think the difference here between Kenny Pickett and Baker Mayfield is Baker Mayfield can start for an NFL team and you can be okay with that. He has the arm to make throws, right? When Baker's at his best, he can be a good quarterback for you. He might not be a great quarterback for you, but he can be a good quarterback for you. I don't think Kenny Pickett can even be that. I'll be honest with you. And especially looking back at the game after the fact, after the game was over, I know we won and I can evaluate. Tristan, I'm not even lying to you. I'm not saying this to troll. I'm sorry, Steelers fans who will see this. Not hating. I genuinely believe that DTR is a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. And I don't say that lightly. I really don't. Everything I saw in that game, and DTR will improve. That's the funniest part about it. Kenny Pickett is what, 2 years in now? And DTR led the offense better, went through his reads quicker, got the ball out way faster. Um, the one thing that Kenny Pickett does that I really like is his mobility and extending plays. DTR did a better job. Like, I'm sorry, Steelers fans. Kenny Pickett is a career backup. That's just what he is. And the amount of quarterbacks, and I'll say this, please do what the New York Giants just did and make him your Daniel Jones, extend him, give him a 25-year contract, please, because he sucks. He sucks. And I really, 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 fingers crossed, hope the Steelers don't end up getting one of these great quarterbacks in the draft this year. And I hope they continue to ride with him, because here's the reality. We wasted the number 1 overall pick on Baker Mayfield. And yes, we got a lot out of it. We did. We got a playoff run. He did a lot of great things for this organization and for this franchise. But in the long run, was he the guy? No, he was not. Kenny Pickett has done jack shit for you. And you wasted a first-round pick, and you've gotten nothing out of him. It's just the reality. Steelers have a lot of weapons. They got good running backs. They got really good receivers. George Pickens with a real quarterback, I think, is one of up there with the top receivers in the NFL. I think Deontay Johnson's really good. Freiermuth is really good. They got a lot, but you don't have a quarterback. So he's terrible. He's so bad.
Yeah. For me, like, honest to God, if Pittsburgh had a competent offensive coordinator and they had a quarterback, say, like, and this is the move that I think that they should be all over this offseason, Kyler Murray. They should be all over it, because I think that he, as a Pittsburgh Steeler, like, he would be incredible. Him or Justin Fields. I think one of those two guys would be great Pittsburgh Steeler quarterbacks. Let's hope that the Rooneys continue to be cheap and just say, no, Kenny was a first round pick. He has to be our starting quarterback.
I can't do Justin Fields breaking my heart as a Pittsburgh Steeler. I cannot do it.
Oh my God. Oh, yeah, it would be brutal. Hell, even Kirk Cousins could go in there and do a job. So, it's like, like, as a Browns fan, as much as it sucks to say, Pittsburgh's close to being a really good team if they can sort it out offensively. Because defensively, man, they got it together, man, and it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. But I think that regardless, let's talk about this Browns defense. Denzel Ward had a pretty big hit today. Everybody locked up
Sunday.
I mean, like, you've kind of said everything I wanted to say, honestly. The only other person that I want to highlight on the defense, Shelby Harris. That first half, man, that man was fucking possessed. Like, he was all over it, and it was nice to see. He's really hit his stride these past few weeks. Shelby has. Between Shelby, Maurice Hurst, and Jordan Elliott, like, you're getting plays every game from those guys that are huge, 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 and influential. So it's exciting to see, man. And man, yeah, this defense is just unfair. I really, honestly, I don't have that much else to say.
That's the perfect
honestly.
way to describe this defense. Not fair. It's literally not fair to have this defense.
Hell no. No. and here's the thing, like Derek, if I was supposed to be an offensive coordinator, right, as a Browns fan, how would I beat this defense? Well, you can't screen on them because they've got too much athleticism in the linebacking room and in your cornerback in your secondary, where screens don't do anything to them. With that being said, you got to get the ball off quickly because you got a pass rush that's pretty insane, but you've also got uh, corners that can lock up in man coverage and hold their man for at least a few seconds. So, personally, if I was a coach going up against this Browns defense, I would be having two tight end sets on the field at all
Yeah.
times, heavy sets, and I would just try to have my quarterback buy time, like have time in the pocket, and try to get something going on the ground. That's, I mean, that's your only chance of really like having your way with the Browns defense, which uh, the Baltimore Ravens have been able to do, but outside of that, nobody else really has. So
Mobility at quarterback.
you could say the Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could say the Colts had some success, and you'd be right. I feel like that was more so a game because of our turnovers gave them a lot of opportunities. So, but regardless, yeah, honestly, like I really don't have many other thoughts outside of this defense besides that because you kind of went into detail about it beautifully. No, don't feel bad. Like that was great. But special teams wise, Dustin Hopkins yet again wins us a goddamn football game. Corey Bjorquez is also one of the best punters in the NFL.
He
down.
arguably won us the game. The way he put our defense in position to go just wreak havoc by just booting the ball. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Prochet, too.
Yeah. Flipped the field multiple times.
Prochet had some good returns.
Prochet's a solid returner. When he catches the football, he's a solid returner. So, but yeah, no, I definitely, right now, with what I'm seeing from the special teams unit, I am not seeing anything that I do not like.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing to say with your special teams.
Don't want to worry about it.
Other than that, I mean, Derek, yeah, absolutely. And Derek, before we move on, did you want to touch on the special teams or any final notes about this one before we put it to bed?
No, I mean, nothing other than what was just said. I mean, D-Hop has absolutely just clutch. Just absolutely clutch. And I saw a thing that said maturing is realizing that with this man, this team would be 2-7, and it was a picture of Cade York. And as much as I hate to say it, definitely don't win all these games we've won if it's Cade York. But we're not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna beat a man while he's down, but couldn't be any happier with Dustin Hopkins. Bajorquez, same thing, and I think Prochet, same thing. I think Prochet's come in and has done a fine job. But yeah, let's move on here.